Hey guys, let's take a look at the homework for week number 2. And we're going to start with Monday. So problem 1, a diver's elevation is 30 feet relative to sea level, 30 feet below, negative 30. She dives down another 12 feet. What is her elevation after the dive? So first we're going to identify the first integer, which is negative 30. And this keyword right here, it says dives down. Down means we're going below 0. So we're going to be another negative 30. So we have 30 feet below, and then we also have another 12. So altogether, we have 30 negatives and 12 negative feet for a total of 42 negative feet. So what's her elevation after the dive? Well, she's pretty much 42 feet below sea level. And sea level would be 0. Let's take a look at number 2. Which equation represents the absolute value of negative 7? So if we take a look at absolute value is distance from 0. And the distance is going to be measured in a positive number. So the absolute value of negative 7 is going to be 7. And so we know it's not going to be A or B. But if we look at C and D, what's the difference? Well, this negative sign is outside of the absolute value. And we haven't really taught that just yet. So C would be the correct answer. But the absolute value inside the symbols is 7. But because that negative sign is outside the absolute value symbols, the absolute value of this is actually going to be negative 7. Just because the negative symbol is on the outside, right? I don't want to confuse anything there, but the correct answer would be C, where the negative 7 is on the inside, and then where the symbols represent the absolute value. So if we take a look at the, I'm going to have to move here, try to look at J down below, which is 0. Okay, so Elton played 4-day golf tournament. Okay, so the first day he had a -6, then he had a -3, then he was over par. Par would be 0 used in golf. Then we have -1. So what I'd like to use is actually put all of our negatives together. Since they're all the same, when they're the same sign, we can combine them. So we got -6, -3, -1. So 6 plus 3 is 9 plus 1. So all of the negatives together would be -10. And then we have 2 positives. So what it's saying is we have 10 total negatives and we have 2 positives. Well, on the number line, if we go -10 and then we turn around and we go +2, we're actually going to be less negative. But taking a look at these, because we have opposite signs, when these signs are opposite, we are going to subtract the numbers. So 10 minus 2 is going to be 8. And because we have more negatives, our answer is going to be negative. So for Monday's homework, take a look at it. So we had some negatives, we had a couple of positives, and the positives will cancel out some of the negatives, and you're left with 8 negatives. Okay, so I'm going to clear this part off here. Now, after Monday, go ahead, click Turn In. Click Turn In up here. Okay, and so just so it's submitted, and then you can open it back up for Tuesday. Okay, so let's move this over. So let's look at Tuesday's homework. I think I can move this. No. There we go. Okay, so Tuesday's homework. The temperature in the morning was -3 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the temperature dropped 11 degrees by midnight. What's the temperature at night? So if we take a look at our first integer, we have -3. and we have something else, the temperature dropping. So this here, that's your key word, the temperature dropped. So that means the temperature is going down even further. So the temperature started at -3. Then we also have 11 negative degrees. So the temperature went down also because we have negatives and negatives. We have the same sign, so we could add the numbers. So 11 plus 3 is going to be 14. And they're negatives, so our answer is going to be the temperature is -14 degrees. Problem number 2, a great white shark can swim 50 feet below sea level. Which best represents the opposite of the depth of the great shark can swim? So here's a keyword, below sea level. So below sea level is 0, so we're saying below that. So if we're going to go below 0, we're going to go negative. So that's what the shark can swim. And the question is asking, what is the opposite of this? What is the opposite of -50? That's just going to be 50. So this is asking for absolute value, which would sort of be close to what it's asking, but it's asking for the opposite. That's negative, that's negative. So D would be the most correct answer. So in problem number 3, Mr. Renato had 150 degrees in his bank account. So he has 150. He deposits $50. And we've talked about deposits and withdrawals this week. So deposits is adding money into the accounts. A couple days later, he's going to withdraw some money. And then a week later, he deposited 75. And then he withdrew some more money. So if we're taking out, it's going to be negative. So if we wrote a math expression, we could actually write 150 plus 50 minus 20 plus 75 minus 100. Okay, so the first two here, 150 and 150 and 50 is going to be $200. And then we also have another positive right here. So that's going to give us $275. And then we have some negatives. We got -20 and -100. And those negatives together, running out of some space here. So those negatives together would be -120. So we have $175, and then we're going to, I could probably actually take this out of here. There we go. So 50, 5 minus 0 is 5, 7 minus 2 is 5, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So we're going to end up with 155, and then we have more positives, so his account is still positive, $155. And these are all whole numbers, so it actually fill. And make sure you go ahead and click Turn In. Click Turn In for the end of Tuesday. So just getting a habit, just so you know everything saves. And moving on to Wednesdays. Which number can you add to 13 to get a sum of 0? Well, since that's a positive 13, if you're positive, the only way to get back to 0 is to go in the negative direction. So you'd actually have to go 13 spaces in the negative direction to get back to 0. And that is also our 0 pairs. 13 positives and 13 negatives together would give us a sum of 0 together. So number 2, what are the coordinates for point Z? So point Z, we got to make sure that we start with our first coordinate point is always going to be X and then Y. So we're on the X-axis. The X is going to be the horizontal. So we're going to go over here to -5 in order to get to Z. And then Y-axis is going to be up and down. And so we're going to go down to -4. So these 2 points are actually going to be at -5 and -4 in order to get to point Z. A fish is 73 feet below sea level. Below sea level, again, sea level is going to be 0. And if it's below, that's going to be -73 feet. It then swims towards the surface. It swims 14 feet towards the surface. If it's going towards the surface, it's going towards 0. And 0 is also, it's going towards the positive side. So this fish is swimming up in the water and is getting closer, less negative, it's getting closer to 0 or to the positive. So how many feet below sea level is it now? So if it started at -73 and then it swam up 14, we can take a look at these two. We have -73 feet and then +14. Because they are opposite integers, they're opposites, we have negatives and positives, we can actually subtract. Gonna run out of space again. 73 minus 14, we can subtract these two numbers because they're opposites. So 13 minus 4 is going to be 9. We borrowed, so you got 6 minus 1 is going to be 5. So this is still negative because we were more negative. The fish is still underwater. If this turned positive, that means the fish is above water, 59 feet above water. That's pretty interesting fish. So if we go 59, these are complete numbers, whole numbers. There are no decimal values in these numbers, so we're actually going to put 0 over here. And because this is a negative number, you have to put in the negative bubble answer, the bubble circle. So you got 5, 9, 0, 0. Okay, and then don't forget to turn it in for Wednesday night, and then you can still open it up for Thursday. Okay, and finishing up for the last day for homework for the week, Thursday, which ordered pair is located in quadrant 2? So we're looking at problem 1. So we start with quadrant 1, Q1, Q2, going to the left. We're going to go in a C pattern for the coordinate plane, quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. So if we look at positive x, positive y, and then negative x and negative y, just looking at the positives and negatives. So in order to get into quadrant 2, we need a negative x and a positive y in order to get into that quadrant. We need to go left and then up. So we need a negative x. And remember, our order pair is going to be x and y. So here we have a negative x, we have a negative x, so it's not a or b. And then we need a positive y. This is not a positive y, so we need a negative x and a positive y, and that would be our correct answer. So problem number 2, which statement is true? The absolute value of 32 is larger than the absolute value of negative 32. The absolute value of both of these numbers would be 32. So this one says it's going to be larger. No, that's not true. The opposite of 10 is larger than the opposite of negative 10. Well, the opposite of 10 would be negative 10, and the opposite of negative 10 would be positive 10. Negative 10 is not larger than positive 10. The sum of any number, which means adding them up, a number and its opposite would always be 0. That would be an absolutely true statement. So any number, 10 and negative 10, if you add them together, it's 0. 20 and negative 20, you add them together, it'd be 0. So that would be our correct answer. The absolute values of negative 18 and 18 are not equal. No, they are equal. They would be equal. So that's a backward statement. And so number 3, which expression is represented on the number line? So remember, we always start at 0, or you just start with the bottom line. So first, we're going to go in the negative direction. So whatever it is, it's negative. And if we count it up, it looks like it's going to be negative 9. And then our second integer turns around and goes in the positive direction. It's going over here towards positive. And it looks like it's going to go up here. It's going to go positive 6. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But when you go negative 9 and you go positive 6, you're going to end up at, so negative 9 plus 6 equals negative 3. But if we look at our answers down below, this says negative 9, yes. This says negative 9, but this one says positive 3. No, and this one says negative 9, subtract 6 more. That would be going more negative. So our correct answer would be G. Last thing, thanks for joining for the video. Absolutely, make sure you turn it in now that you got everything done and you showed your work. And have a good Thursday night.